Welcome affiliates, Dan here. In this tutorial we're going to create two Angular 2 components. A blog list component, a blog item component, and we're going to pass data between the two of them. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is we want to open up command window, go to our application directory and type code dot. That's going to open up our solution in Visual Studio Code. In the app directory, let's create a blogs folder. And in this folder we're going to add a new file, blog-list.component.ts. And in this component we're going to keep all our code for the blog list itself. So the first thing we need to do is import our component, add the component decorator, and notice here we have a selector. That means we're going to be using this component as a directive. So we're going to create the blog-list selector and add our export class blog list component. So let's take this decorator and add it to app.component.ts in the template section. And then let's try it in the browser. Remember to do that, we open up our command line, npm start, and we have an error. Blog list is not a known element. That's because we didn't declare it in a module yet. Remember, all components need to be declared in a module. So let's go back to app.module.ts and we'll import the new component we just created and add it to the declaration section. Try it again. And there we have it. My blogs. Okay, now let's add some data to our project. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to paste in some JSON into our class. JSON is a really lightweight data format, key value pairs, and you can see you can nest them together like we have for the location here. And then we could just adjust our template and use one-way binding to display this data in our web page. So one-way binding, otherwise known as interpolation, is everything between those double brackets. And you can see we use blog.name, blog's our data source. We refresh the page, there's the data. So let's add the rest of the data, do a little refactoring here. And then look again in the browser. There we have it. Okay, let's create a blog item component and call that component from the blog list. That'll set up a parent-child relationship. So in the blogs directory, let's create a new component, blog-item.component.ts. And in this component, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the code that I just wrote in the blog list and copy it over into blog item, because we could reuse this code. So let's take the top section, copy it into the blog item, and then we'll create our export class blog item component. And then let's change our selector to make it a blog item directive. Again, this component is used as a directive. And then we can refactor the blog list, remove the interpolation, and add the new directive. So in the blog item class, what we want to do is pass some data into there. So we're going to use the input decorator, and that'll allow us to create an @input statement and declare a blog of data type any in our export class. This will allow our parent to pass our blog data into the child component. So let's declare this new component in our app.module.ts. Don't forget to add it to the declaration section. And before I test this in the browser, I'm going to do a little code refactoring here. Because we cut and paste the code, we don't need all of this. We can get rid of the title and the blog item. and this hard return, and then check it in the browser. It should look the same. Let's get started with some two-way binding. And first thing we're going to do is add a button, a command button, to our item class. And we're going to need a handler in here and write to the console. So when this button is pressed, we should get the message clicked in the console window in the browser. Let's try this, refresh the page. Okay, open up the console window, click the button, and there we have it, clicked. Okay, let's finish two-way binding by using an output and event emitter. So we import them both from Angular Core. We add an output decorator and statement, and then refactor our handler with some data. And then in the list component, we add a new event handler and a click event in the blog item directive. And then here we're going to pass in some data and show that data from the child item in the command window. So let's look at this in the browser. And open up our command window, and you can see data and the data passed in from the child component. The last thing I'm going to show you here is how to create a template variable. A template variable pound blog item we could add to our directive, and then we could reference our child item through that variable. So if I add a new button with an event, I can call an event inside of my child item. Okay, write to the console window here, and let's test this out. So here we go, we have a new button, log, and then when we click this, the parent calls the event in the child and writes to the command window. That's it. Okay, so be sure to get all the project files and a PDF of this tutorial at Modern Day Affiliates, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.